MJX RC have kindly sent me the Bugs 2 to review. Now, I absolutely love the Bugs, and if you had a look around the channel or you're familiar with the channel, you know how much I love them. Bugs 3 was my first one, then they went to Bugs 8, which changed to a Bugs 6, and now we got a Bugs 2, so they're sort of jumping around on the numbers, but see how we get on, shall we? Whether or not there's going to be space in the hangar for it at the end would depend how good it is. So this is the GPS one, and also it's brushless motors and has Wi-Fi as well, so I'm quite interested in using this. It's 1080p camera, and I'll put it through the full test. We'll just see how we get on with it, and it says it has 0.5 kilometre range on the Wi-Fi. Now, that's amazing if it does. I look forward to, if it does do that, that'll be absolutely incredible. It comes in 2 flavours. You've got the black one, which is the one I've actually got, and then you've got this vicious bright red one, which is kind of smart actually, I think, but it's a really good sturdy box as per normal. And I know people probably laugh at me because I actually show the boxes and everything, but if you're getting it as a prezi for someone, and in this case I think this is vital and important, it's completely ready to fly out of the box, so you don't need to assemble anything. And I like it because you can then transport it around in the box they sent it to you, so it's fully protected like this. So I think that's, you know, a big benefit in my book, that you can actually transport it around. You're not having to take the props on and off as well. So and everything obviously fits in here, transmitter and everything. All you got to do is carry your phone with you. So let's get this unpacked and have a look and see what it looks like. So that's everything unpacked, and as you can see, it's all pretty black actually, and looking quite slick. I'll run through the quad individually in a second, but let's run through all the accessories that we get first of all. You've obviously got the transmitter, which is the normal sort of Bugs transmitter, but obviously this one has GPS on it, and I'll run through all the functions and everything, but basically exactly the same as the one that comes on the 3 or the 6 or the 8. And because we've got the Wi-Fi on this one, we've got a little camera holder on there, and same as we had before on the Bugs 8 and 6, just simply clips onto the top there, so it's quite simple. You've got a little Phillips screwdriver which you can basically strip the whole quad down with, and then here we've got a prop removal tool, so it's just for actually undoing the nuts. You can usually undo them with your hand, to be perfectly honest. You can just usually get a grip because they're knurled finish on them, but if not, then just simply pop that over, and then that gives you an extra leverage. Make sure you hold the motor. It's the motor that you don't want to be rotating, and obviously the prop as well, but you're going to literally grip onto the motor there, and then you can just undo it. And then once we get under there, there's actually, on this model, there's actually a small sort of rubber washer there, and you get a spare set of 4 of those as well. You also get a spare set of props, and these are the same as the ones that come with the Bugs 6 and the Bugs 8, which are different to the ones that come with the Bugs 3. They're still really flexible, and if you took a hit or anything, I'm pretty sure they'd get out of the way. I wouldn't rely on them not cutting flesh or damaging you, but they certainly wouldn't create too much damage, that's for sure. And like I say, you get a spare set of those as well. The battery is same size as the other Bugs, so 800 milliamp hour, and it's just a 2-cell, and it's 25C discharge, and same as the others, and they worked really well. You've got an XT30 connector there, and then it actually charges through the balanced charger port cable here, and they give you a charger as well, and obviously you'd had an adapter for whatever country you're in. Now they quote 5 hours charging for this. And that seems really excessive because it's not a big battery, and I would have thought this thing could have kicked out a bit more than that, but apparently it only kicks out 0.5 of an amp, so I would have still said sort of 3 or 4 hours, but that's still absolutely sort of ridiculous really, I would say, for a battery of this size. The nice thing is we can use hobby grade chargers on this, or I've got some other cheaper options as well, and I'll put links down in descriptions to videos I've done on those. When you are charging it, this goes red on the top here, and when it's fully charged it will go green. So before we get onto the quad, just have a quick look through the other bits and pieces you get. You get full instructions, you get a bunch of stickers like have come on the other Bugs as well, so it's sort of getting quite a following the Bugs, I think, which is rather nice. And then you've got a quick start guide, and their guides are brilliant. XRC seem to do really good ones. The translations are really good, and that really is quite a good guide for you. And this is a huge instruction manual compared to what you get with some of them, which is just literally a leaflet if you're lucky. And like I say, all the translations are really well done. Calibration, binding, etc. Runs through all the parts and everything. Really nicely done. And then on this model where we've got the Wi-Fi goes onto the QR codes because you need to download the app for the actual FPV on this one. And on to the main event, the Bugs 2. She really is a nice, slick looking quad. Really highly polished plastic, as hopefully the studio lights are showing that up. And really, really very slick, I would say. Nice looking quad. The arms and everything are pretty solid, actually. I've had a good old sort of push around of it, and nothing seems to move until you get right out to the motors here. And then you've sort of got a bit of a torsion twist you can create there. I don't think it's going to cause too much trouble. Had exactly the same on the other Bug, so I don't think that's any problem there. The frame is nice and strong. How it would take an impact, I don't know. You never know with these things. You can have a very short, small crash and trash it completely, or you can drop them from a heck of a height and they just seem to bounce okay, so there's no telling with them. But for what it is, I would say it's pretty good actually. The only way you're going to get rid of any of that sort of movement there is carbon fibre, and that's not going to happen at this break point with the GPS and everything else on it. So the props themselves, like I say, you unscrew this one this way and that undoes it, and then you change your prop over, and the props are clearly marked B and A. And then this one, because it's got the little dent in the top there basically, and this one hasn't, this one's an anti-clockwise thread, so basically we turn it the wrong way, so you turn it clockwise to undo it. That's because they're self-tightening props. So you make sure the prop's on round the right way, and also you tighten this one up this way and you tighten this one up this way. So just make sure, and you can't mix these two up basically. Yeah, no way. So they're clearly marked with the dents on them, which is rather good. The actual battery bay I'll show you in a second. Flicking it over, we've got the 1080p camera, and all the antennas and everything are all well hidden. Whether or not they go down the legs, I don't know. I haven't taken it apart yet. But to get the range they're talking about with nothing surface mounted is pretty impressive, I must admit. So, and we'll see how good the camera is when we actually get the footage. You'll be able to see it. It will definitely feature on the flight review. We've got a micro SD card slot there, and I'll put links in descriptions because you don't actually get one with it. So, which is a little unusual, but it's just the way they've done it, I suppose. These look very familiar, like another manufacturer. So they've sort of doing their own props, I would say, and they're sort of using the same manufacturer for these. I would say they're very similar shape anyway, and you don't need any extended landing gear or anything because she's going to sit down quite nicely on that. Mine didn't come with prop guards, but there is definitely the holes there for them. Onto the battery itself, for charging you have to pull this balance charger cable out, and then you just simply pop that back in. It only just sits in there. There's no clips or anything. And you've got the XT30 there, goes into the XT30 in there. There's no on and off switch for this one, so you just literally push it in and it will sit there until you really give it a really good shove. And let me just put that cable right out the way. Back in there, that's it. And then, so it will sit there, it won't go in, so you won't suddenly start your quad up unless you actually physically give it quite a shove in sort of thing. And then it's running through, setting up everything. And as you can see, we've got the LEDs on the bottom, and I'll run through those. They will change as we calibrate it for the GPS and everything. Right, battery's charged. Let's go out for a flight. Onto the transmitter, and if you want to change it from mode 2, which is its default flight mode, so basically you've got the throttle on here and you've got your roll, your pitch, and then your yaw this way as well. You can change it to any of the other ones, and there's 4 in total. You simply hold down the red button at the top here and then turn it on. This will keep flashing because it's actually in bind mode as well, so this would be the first time you ever bind it to your Bugs 2. You would need to do this, or if you want to bind it to another Bug. And then if you want to change it, as you see it's default mode 2, just simply hold that down for 3 seconds and it'll go mode 3, another 3 seconds, mode 4, and then it's cyclical, it'll just come around to mode 1 then. Oops. Yeah, it's actually gone out of the mode now, so it's actually stopped on mode 4, so no panic at all. Just hold the button down again, turn it back on, we're back in the bind mode again. hold that down for 3 seconds, and obviously you do this a bit quicker if you were doing it without doing a review like I'm doing. There we go. So we're back to mode 2, so you choose whatever mode you want as a flight mode. To bind the transmitter to the quad, and when they send it to you, they won't actually be bound together. You simply hold down the red button on the top left, which is a little got a little lock shown on it. Hold that down and then turn the actual transmitter on, and you see you get a flashing green LED there. Then plug in the quad, and basically the flashing LED means that it's ready to bind. When you turn the quad on, it will then bind to the quad. When you get that deet deet, it means we're ready to go into GPS calibration. And to do GPS calibration, you can either rotate it clockwise or anti-clockwise, but you must do it in this sequence. So it's basically flat to the ground first of all, and then you do it, it's about 3 times, but you'll see the LEDs will change when it actually gets round. There we go, so now we've got changed of LED. Then we put the quad either facing upwards or downwards, and like I say, you can go clockwise or counterclockwise, it really doesn't matter. Rotate it round, and then you get solid LEDs then, and we're ready for flight. Okay, I've actually managed to pick up some GPS signals inside the house, which I'm really surprised at. The front motors, underneath the front motors, the front LEDs basically are red, and then on the back, if you haven't got GPS signal, they're on this sort of amber yellow colour, and then when you pick up a GPS signal, they go to green. If we turn off the GPS here, it's still, so you're flying, they call it gesture mode, but actually that actually turns the GPS off. It still means that you can get this, you're still receiving the signal, and as you can see, the only reason that's changing colour is because the amount of satellites we're picking up here is below 7, I think is the lowest that we'll pick up. But if you want to calibrate the gyro after you've calibrated the GPS, you simply pull these two down to the left, you get the flashing LEDs, and then when they stop flashing, that means calibration is finished. Running through the rest of the transmitter functions, you've got these two here, which are actually fake buttons. They don't do anything on this particular model. You've got your start and stop your motors here, so you just quick press and it will, there's about a second delay, and then the motors will start, but they go into idle. To take off, you press this one here, and then it will lift only about half a metre to a metre, something like that. I don't even think it's that high on this model. It's quite gentle as well, it's not a rapid one. And this is also your auto land one. When you press the auto land, it will come into land, and you can choose with the direction stick for position and everything. And if you want to get out of auto land, you can either press it again or just give it some throttle and it'll override the command. On the right hand side here, we've got the return to home button, and you simply press that and then it will start heading towards home, and it climbs first of all, heads back towards you, then drops down. And while it's coming down, you can then choose a direction of where you want it to actually go when it's on its descent. You can also rotate it as well, and that you can actually do that while it's coming back home as well. You can cancel that simply by pressing the return to home button again. To take a photograph, you simply press this one and you get a little icon come up there. To take a video, you press down and hold it for 3 seconds, and then this icon will come here and start pulsing. And then to stop it, you hold it again for a couple of seconds to cancel it again. The GPS is on, as you can see from this icon here. So you put the slider to the left and it turns it off. And then on this slider here, this is your headless mode, and again this slider is off to the left and on to the right, and when you put that on, you get the icon up there as well. Like I said, you've got this one here is for the GPS and how many satellites you got. Because we're indoors, we're not getting any satellites, and this one here is the signal strength between the transmitter and the quad. And then you have the height and the distance. So this is from where you took off initially. So if you walk a fair distance and say go up an elevation, it won't be measuring it from that point. This will measure it from the point that you were stood at when you first took off. That also applies when you hit the return to home button. It will come back to the point of takeoff, not to where the transmitter is at the time you've asked it to come back. There is another way of starting the motors as well. You don't have to use the button up here, and there we go. As you can see, it does take a second to get going. To stop the motors, just pull the throttle off for a second. But the other way of doing it is you can manually start them by just pulling the 2 sticks down and into center. As with all the bugs, if you lose signal from the transmitter, if I turn this off, the quad, after about 5 seconds, the motors will die and it will drop to the floor. And also, if I take the battery out of the actual quad itself, I'll simply pop that so there's no power there. Within a second, you'll get the alert coming up that the actual, basically it's lost signal to the quad itself. So it's a really good fail-safe system it's got on the bugs. On the Wi-Fi, I have never known a Wi-Fi anything like this. This is awesome, and it's, you can still going because you've got the prop still spinning there. That's 358 meters. Wow, and the Wi-Fi is still holding. That is just incredible. Yeah, the camera looks all right actually. It's not bad at all. We'll see when we get back, but yeah, certainly on the screen it's fine. That's pretty, you know, for the wind going past it and everything, that is pretty good. Tigger impressed with the bugs. Now there's a new thing, but that was impressive, and I still had a Wi-Fi signal, so you can tell I'm pretty excited. I might get one of my other quads out, so I might fly the H, or I might go out with the X350. So I'm off to play really. So